Hello and welcome to Easy Learning Economics. I am Dr. Kaval. In the previous lecture, we discussed in detail about the inflation, deflation and inflation rate, and we also learned that how to calculate inflation rate. In this lecture, we shall learn that what is demand pull inflation and what is cost push inflation. These are the sources which causes inflation in the economy and other miscellaneous factors which support the inflation. In this lecture, we discuss. As we know that the inflation means a sustained rise in general level of price. So demand pull inflation means a sustained rise in price level caused by an increase in the aggregate demand curve. This is the price level which is measured on the y-axis and aggregate output is measured on x-axis. This is the aggregate demand curve and it is the aggregate supply curve. Aggregate demand and aggregate supply intersect at point E. This is the equilibrium price where quantity demand and quantity supplied are equal, and the equilibrium price is OP and the equilibrium quantity is OQ. As the demand increases from AD to AD dash, the quantity demanded increases from OQ to OQ dash, and the new price is decided, that is OP dash. The price increases from OP to OP dash due to shifting of AD to AD dash. The demand pull inflation is mostly caused by the factors such as increase in household disposable income or a change in consumer expectation of the future. So what is cost push inflation? A sustained rise in the price level caused by the reduction in aggregate supply is called the cost push inflation. This is the price level which is measured on the y-axis, and this is the aggregate supply or aggregate output that is shown on x-axis, and this is the aggregate demand curve and this is the aggregate supply curve, where aggregate supply curve and aggregate demand curve intersect at point E. The equilibrium price is E, where the quantity supplied is OM and the price level is OP. Due to shifting of aggregate supply from AS to AS dash means the reduction in aggregate supply, the quantity supply decreases from OM to OM dash, and as a result the price goes up from OP to OP dash, and the new equilibrium price is E dash. Reduction in aggregate supply from OM to OM dash reflects an increase in the cost of production, like there might be increase in the cost of raw material or increase in wages or interest rate has pushed up the price level from OP to OP dash. What are other miscellaneous factors which support the inflation? The other demand factors may support the inflation, like increase in money supply. When the money supply increases, that the demand for money increases. As a result, the people demand more goods and services, so the prices goes up. Increase in velocity of money, number of times the circulation of money increases, inflation rises. More investment, as more investments are made in the economy, the demand for goods increases. As a result, the price increases. The non-productive expenditure when increases, when expenditure on defense or when we increase our expenditure on birthday parties and in marriages, that the demand increases. As a result, the inflation goes up. Corruption, increase in corruption also rises the demand. As a result, the inflation occurs in the economy. Deficit financing, when the government through fiscal budget exceeds government revenue, so that there is a deficit financing, means the excess of spending by the government also increases inflation. The foreign remittances, so the foreign remittances means the Pakistani peoples who are working in abroad and they are sending the money in Pakistan or in their domestic economy, and their families' purchasing power increases through the foreign remittances, and as a result their demands goes up and the price increases. The population bomb, the increase in populations pushes up the demand, and as a result that the price goes up. Rise in the import prices due to devaluation of currency, that the official pegged price of exchange rate rises and the currency depreciates, and the devaluation of currency causes the import price to rise, and more we are to pay against the import goods. So rise in import price helps to increase the inflation in the economy. Increase in the demand for export. The increase in demand for export, that aggregate demand increases, that also rises inflation in the economy. And the pensions, and the increasing burden of pension on the government is increase in pensions, increase the purchasing power of the pensioners families. As a result, they demand more and the inflation rises. So these are the factors affecting demand. The price of commodity, as the price of commodity decreases, the quantity demanded increases. With increase in income of consumer, the demand increases. As a result, the inflation happens in the economy. The number of customers increases, the demand goes up because the supply remains same. Advertisement, with increase in advertisement expenditure, that the demand increases and price increases also. Credit availability, more the credit facilities are available to the customer, they increase their demand, and demand effect. As a result, the inflation might be in an economy. As so other factors also, test inflation, price of substitute goods, price of complement goods also helps to affect the demand. If you want to learn more about how does these factors affect their demand, you can watch my video, the links are given in description. How does the factors affect the elasticity of demand? They are like availability of substitute goods, proportion of consumer income, time period, nature of commodity, addiction of goods, income level of consumer, and consumer loyalty also affect the elasticity of demand, and it also causes the inflation. So these are the factors affecting demand and factor affecting elasticity of demand. If you want to learn more about it, you can watch my videos. Supply side factors which causes the supply to reduce, and as a result the increase in prices. The sluggish performance of agriculture sector, if the production of agriculture sector decreases, the supply in market decreases. As a result, the increased demand puts up the pressure on the price, and price goes up and inflation happens in the economy. Slow industrial growth. Industrial growth means their supply decreases. Due to decrease in supply, the price increases. And increase in price of factor of production, because the cost of raw material increases, the wages increases, the interest to be paid by the producer on the borrowed capital rises. Through this increase in the price of factor of production, the cost of production goes up. As a result, the producer charges high price for his product, so the inflation happens in the economy. And the increase in import price also makes the commodity becomes expensive, and inflation is the result. Devaluation in currency rises the cost of raw material and increase the cost of production. As a result, the inflation in the economy. The government policies also support the inflation. How does the government policies causes the inflation in the economy? The government, through fiscal policy, by increasing the tax rate, causes the cost of production to rise. As a result, the supply decreases and the inflation occurs in the economy. Increasing the interest rate through monetary policy, producer has to pay the more on the borrowed capital. As a result, the cost of production goes up and supply decreases, and the inflation increases. If the substitute goods are not available, the demand for that product increases. As a result, the price will increases. Increase in external debt and debt service payments also pushes up the pressure on the price, and inflation happens in the economy. And the time period required to produce a product, if more time is required to produce a product, then the supply will be low. As a result, the price of that product goes up and inflation will be the result. And the failure of industry and IMF conditions for loans also causes the inflation in the economy. And these are the factors which affect the supply, the price of commodity, availability of factor of production, natural resources, cost of input, technology, tax and subsidies, environmental condition, price of substitute goods, price of complementary goods, number of sellers, size of market, time period, goal of the firm, business expectation, reserve price. These also affect the supply, and these are the factors affecting elasticity of supply. So what are those factors which affect the elasticity of supply? Or the time period, nature of product, availability and mobility of factor of production, spare capacity, barrier to entry may affect the supply and could help to rise inflation. So if you want to learn more about the factors affecting supply and factor affecting elasticity of supply, you can watch my video. Links are given in description. I hope you have a better idea about the demand pull and cost push inflation. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.